You've probably seen her online, the Wizard Liz. Her perspective, it really seems to connect with a lot of people.
Absolutely. She has a significant presence.
So if someone's just hearing about her now, what's the essence? I mean, we want to give people a quick, solid understanding.
Okay, well, fundamentally, Liz's story is about transforming some really tough early experiences, trauma even, into this incredible drive.
Right, and shifting from needing approval from others to finding strength inside herself.
Exactly. And learning how to consciously, shape her own reality by understanding and then letting go of beliefs that were holding her back.
It sounds like a real roadmap, built from actually living through it.
It definitely is. And when you look at her path, her current views are so clearly linked to those formative years.
Let's start there then. She talks quite openly about a difficult childhood, doesn't she?
She does, including physical abuse from her father and her mother experiencing abuse too. It's a heavy starting point. Yeah. And she describes this really complex moment when her father actually left. It wasn't just sadness, there was this unexpected feeling of relief.
That's right. A sense that a threat was gone for her and her siblings. But the aftermath, as she explains it, wasn't simple at all.
Because the external problem leaving didn't just magically fix the internal stuff, I imagine.
Precisely. Liz talks about how that trauma became internalized. It showed up as self-destructive behaviors, like bulimia and anorexia.
Wow.
She saw them as ways of turning the harm inward now that the original source was gone.
That's a tough realization, that the issue wasn't just the abuse itself, but how you deal with it inside, feeling like you somehow allowed it.
Exactly. And then having to rebuild your whole sense of self when the only reality you knew, even a bad one, disappears. She literally says her life really started when he left.
So rebuilding identity, that must have tied into her initial motivations.
Definitely. It was deeply connected to her first big goal, which was, understandably, financial security. She said her primary aim was simply to just make money.
Right, that makes sense. Wanting to help her family, to try and put some kind of metaphorical Band-Aid on the wounds her father caused.
She felt this huge weight of responsibility for their pain, and that really drove her ambition to get financially stable.
But there was another struggle happening internally at the same time, wasn't there? The eating disorder.
Yes. And she realized that the immense energy going into battling bulimia and anorexia was actually holding her back. It stopped her from building her business.
Ah, so she saw a connection there.
A crucial one. She recognized a parallel between trying to control her weight and that feeling of complete powerlessness from her childhood. Like the eating disorder was a twisted way to try and get some control back.
That's really insightful, and that led to a shift, didn't it?
A major turning point. She talks about just being exhausted from blaming everything outside herself. So she made a conscious choice to look inward, to take ownership.
And this is where that powerful idea comes in. Blaming others gives your power away.
But taking responsibility, even for your reaction to what happened, lets you reclaim it. That was huge for her.
So she realized hating her father was still, in a way, letting him control her energy.
Exactly. She decided to consciously redirect that energy,
Yeah.
not into resentment, but into building the life she wanted.
Okay, so someone with that kind of journey and that level of, let's say, directness online, it leads to certain perceptions, like the narcissist label.
Right, that comes up. Liz addresses it head on. She feels it comes from people maybe not fully grasping what clinical narcissism actually involves.
Which involves more than just confidence, right? Like lack of empathy, need for admiration.
Exactly. Psychologically, it's a specific pattern. While her online persona is very confident, she argues the core narcissistic traits, especially that lack of empathy and manipulation, aren't her intention.
So when she posts things like, I always get what I want, what does she say the intention is?
Well, this is interesting. She says her goal is actually to inspire self-love in others.
How does that work?
By pushing the boundaries of self-expression, by projecting this, like extreme confidence, she hopes it makes other people feel more okay loving themselves. Almost like if she can be that bold, maybe they can allow themselves a bit more self-acceptance too. It's a very paradoxical idea.
Huh. That is an interesting take. And it kind of leads into her advice on spotting genuinely toxic relationships, maybe even actual narcissistic traits in others. What does she say to look for?
First and foremost, trust your intuition, that gut feeling. She really believes people, especially women, often know when something's off, but ignore it. Pay attention if someone consistently drains your energy.
Okay, trust the feeling. What else?
Actions over words. Always. She tells that story about the waitresses. Remember, their boss sounded nice, said all the right things.
But didn't pay them. Yeah, that really sticks with you. Shows the disconnect.
Exactly. And she also talks about rose-colored glasses in
Yeah.
relationships, how your own energy, your own hope and potential you project onto someone.
Can make them seem way better than they actually are.
Right. You're investing so much of your energy into seeing them that way.
And then when the relationship ends, the glasses come off, you see them more clearly.
That's how she describes it. Like you're reclaiming all that personal energy you poured into them.
Okay, so shifting gears slightly. She has some pretty strong views on successful women and relationships, finding partners.
She does. She talks about how some men might feel insecure, deriving their value mainly from career success, and then feeling, well, intimidated by women who are also achieving a lot.
And she feels society doesn't really encourage men to develop value in other areas like emotional intelligence.
That's part of her point.
Yeah.
And she kind of pushes back on this idea of soft masculinity being new. She suggests men have often had a sort of princess treatment regarding the standards expected of women.
Interesting. And her definition of a broke man isn't just about money, is it?
No, it's more about mindset, lack of drive, unwillingness to try and create abundance. She contrasts that with someone who's maybe struggling financially but is actively trying, actively building.
Got it. She also talks about the pressure on women, doesn't she? Marriage, kids by a certain age.
Yeah, and what she calls a passive depression, she sometimes sees in successful single women who feel like they've failed by not hitting those traditional markers.
But she also brings up the grass is always greener idea, right? That those seemingly perfect marriages have their own struggles too.
Exactly. Hidden challenges, complexities.
Yeah.
For her, right now, she's very clear. Business and independence are the priorities.
And she seems to have this real faith in timing, divine timing, she calls it.
Yeah, that what's meant for you won't miss you. Which ties beautifully into another huge theme for her, the power of letting go.
Tell me about that. She had a personal experience with this, right? Feeling overwhelmed.
A very intense one. Extreme focus on goals, but feeling isolated, leading to real mental distress.
And the turning point came during a walk.
Yeah, walking in nature, talking to God, as she puts it. And this huge realization hit her. Wanting nothing gives you everything.
Wanting nothing gives you everything. What does that really mean in practice?
It's about releasing that desperate attachment to specific outcomes. That constant trying to control everything actually creates resistance. By letting go of that tight grip, you paradoxically open yourself up to receive more, maybe things you didn't even know you wanted.
So moving from desperate control to surrender and trust.
Exactly. And she claims the positive shifts in her life after that realization were incredibly fast.
She relates it to when an ex calls right after you finally stop thinking about them.
Right. It's like your energy is no longer tied up in that obsessive loop, so it comes back to you, and maybe they sense that shift.
The idea being that desperation is kind of repulsive.
Yeah, energetically speaking, true abundance flows more easily when you feel whole and complete already, not when you're operating from a place of lack. It comes back to that trust in timing, not forcing things.
So much of this seems to circle back to self-worth, self-love. She tackles the idea that self-love is selfish pretty directly.
She really does. She thinks that's mostly societal conditioning.
Yeah.
We're often taught from a young age to put others first, almost to the point of neglecting ourselves. We're rarely encouraged to, pat ourselves on the back.
So she advocates for active self-applause, positive self-talk.
Absolutely. Recognizing your own wins, big or small. Her core belief is that loving yourself isn't selfish at all. It's the foundation. You can't pour from an empty cup. Loving yourself allows you to create more love around you.
That makes sense. And she also connects confidence to competence, right? Getting good at something.
Yeah, developing skills, mastering something, that builds a really solid inner confidence that isn't just based on external validation.
And in being honest with yourself, setting boundaries.
Crucial. Knowing your worth means not allowing mistreatment. She talks about overcoming her father's belief that women should be silent and finding her own voice, her own confidence through that.
She also challenges that just be who you are advice, doesn't she?
Yeah, she finds it a bit passive. Instead, she suggests focusing on becoming a better version of yourself. Shedding the limiting beliefs, the old patterns that aren't serving you anymore.
Like the oxygen mask analogy on planes. Put yours on first.
Exactly. Self-care, self-love. They aren't luxuries. They're necessary to function well and help others effectively.
Okay, but even with growing confidence, that feeling of imposter syndrome can creep in. How does Liz view that?
Her take is interesting. Action comes before the feeling. You don't wait to feel like you belong. You act like you belong, and the feeling follows the action.
So step into the role.
Kind of. She suggests our current self is often just a construct anyway, built from outside messages.
And she uses a video game analogy.
Right. Like life's a game where you can choose your character, choose who you want to become, and then you grow into that persona through consistent habits and actions.
It starts in the mind. She connects mindset to physical well-being, too.
Definitely. She believes our thoughts and emotions can impact our physical health.
And she even reframes the word delusional.
She argues we're all a bit delusional anyway, like we soon will wake up tomorrow, right? So why not choose a positive delusion? Set a mental goal for the person you want to be and start acting like them now.
That's a powerful reframe. Now, as people grow and change like this, friendships can sometimes shift. How does she explain outgrowing friends?
She approaches it quite logically. If one person grows significantly, it can naturally create discomfort for friends who haven't changed as much. It might make them reflect on their own situation, which can sometimes lead to jealousy.
And she doesn't see jealousy as purely bad.
No, more like an indicator. It shows you what you desire. The key, she says, is to transmute that jealousy into motivation for your own growth, not let it turn into resentment towards the other person.
She uses her own family as an example.
Yeah, coming from nothing, and now seeing her success helps her family believe more in their own potential. It's not about her being better. It's about showing what's possible.
And understanding that everyone interprets things through their own lens.
Exactly. Our experiences shape how we hear things. So if someone seems jealous, her approach is to try and send them love, recognizing it likely stems from their own unfulfilled desires.
Finally, what about just rising above pettiness? Not sweating the small stuff.
She credits having to grow up fast. It forced her to see things from multiple angles, to understand different perspectives, even if she didn't agree with them.
But understanding doesn't mean excusing bad behavior, right?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Empathy and boundaries can coexist. You can understand why someone acts a certain way, but still refuse to accept mistreatment.
And her strategy is basically not giving negativity oxygen.
Pretty much. Not letting it exist in my world by choosing not to react or give it her attention. Focus your energy elsewhere.
So, wrapping this up, the journey of the wizard Liz really highlights overcoming hardship, that massive shift from external validation to internal power.
The absolute necessity of self-love, the freedom in letting go.
And this core idea that we really do co-create our reality with our beliefs and mindset, it definitely makes you think, doesn't it? What might I be holding on to that's time to let go of?
It's a powerful question to sit with.
See you soon with another one.